Alright, and welcome back to the forecast card. Pretty solid day, 2-0. Wasn't a pretty busy day for college basketball. Kent versus Loyola under ends at I think 136. It was honestly extremely sweaty in the first 5 minutes of this game. Both teams were clearly not playing any defense. I think it was like 20 to 18 in like the first 4.5 minutes. I thought I was cooked, but luckily their offenses regressed to where I expected it to be. Defenses locked back in, and there was like long stretches of basically no points, which was great. Uh, UAB first half, they ended up winning the first half by 5. Pretty sweat free. The game is currently still at half, but I'm expecting UC Irvine to probably end up winning this game. Um, yeah, this UC Irvine team is definitely a second half team, so I'm probably gonna live bet UC Irvine on the spread here at plus 5.5. Just to have a little bit more action today. But yeah, 2-0 brings our NIT record slash CBI record to 12-15. Much better than how it started, so glad to try to get even there. Big dance record still 14-16, not great, but nice to get a 2-0 day under our belt. Gives me a little bit more confidence going into the rest of the tournament. So yeah, 4 games today. No locks. Really not sure if I'm going to have another lock unless I really feel good about a side. But these lines are getting really sharp this time of year. The lines are maybe 1 point off of where I would personally put them at most, so just 4 normal bets, half a unit for me. Looking forward to watching some of these because these are going to be some really, really, really good games. And yeah, could see a couple big upsets. So let's get into the 4 sides that are like in these first 4 March Madness games tomorrow. All right, heading on to game number 1, we have BYU versus Alabama. Now, model-wise, I have this game as basically a 3-point win for Alabama. Obviously, Alabama has been an elite team this year, having to have played the hardest schedule in college basketball. But there's something about this BYU team that's just really, really scrappy. They've got a lot more momentum coming into this game. Alabama definitely has not been playing as well. And again, this is a game where both teams are elite offenses. I consider taking the over, but I feel like that's too easy. And I don't really feel too good about that one. So yeah, I think BYU is just a really good offense that's playing incredibly well. It seems like their team has really high energy here, and I think they want to put Big 12 here on the map. SEC obviously has been a tough conference this year, but again, it's hard to look at BYU's stats because they've been kind of shooting over them a lot lately. But I think this could be a fast-paced game. But I like BYU to be able to stick around here. They have proven time and time again that they can kind of hang around with these elite teams. Obviously, there's been some stretches where BYU has gotten, smacked around a little bit. But again, Alabama's defense is good, but it's not really that good. I think BYU has scored on much tougher defenses. Both these teams coming off of some solid wins. BYU beat Wisconsin VCU, and Alabama is coming off wins over Robert Morris and St. Mary's. So I would argue BYU has had the harder, stretch to get here. I think Robert Morris, again, one of the easier teams to play against. And they still kind of struggle letting Robert Morris score 81 on them, a 16 seed. And then they played St. Mary's. That was just a weird matchup game. I don't expect that to happen twice. Yeah, again, I haven't been impressed. This is the same team that has losses to Missouri, losses to, obviously they have a lot of losses to really good teams. But man, BYU has been insane. The only game they've dropped since like the beginning of February was against Houston, and that was obviously a tough matchup for them. I don't know, man. I think Alabama here, this is going to be an interesting game. BYU has a bit of a rest advantage. They had 1 extra day off here. Obviously, Alabama is going to be kind of a home game for them. But yeah, again, I can't really look at the numbers here. I'm just going off of the fact that BYU has been playing out of their mind, and the spread being 5.5, started at 4.5. I think getting 5.5 is a good spot here to take the dog. I think this is going to be a 1 or 2 possession game, and Bama is not that great at shooting free throws. Where if it does come to it at the end, where it's a close game and Bama's shooting free throws, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to clutch up. So yeah, give me BYU plus 5.5. Probably going to sprinkle them on the money line. Obviously, again, statistically, Alabama could easily win this game by 15. But the way these two teams are playing, I'm gonna take a shot here with BYU. Alabama feels a little bit too easy here, and I expect the line to be a bit bigger. So I think they're trying to tell us that BYU is going to make this game interesting. All right, that brings us to game number 2, which is Maryland versus Florida. Now, Florida was one of my favorite teams in college basketball. I think this is going to be a really, really fun game to watch. But Maryland does not lose games by a lot. Like, if you look at their games this year, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 losses this year. And not in a single one of those losses would they have not covered this number, which is kind of insane to think about. They have Purdue lost by 5, Marquette they lost by 4, Northwestern by 2, Ohio State by 3, Michigan State by 3, Michigan by 1. Obviously, they haven't played, the elite of the elite teams. I'd say the best team that they have played this year is, you could argue, Michigan State. But man, how Florida looked in that game against UConn, they really did not look that good. They've had I would say both these teams had pretty easy schedules to get here. Maryland had to play Colorado State, Grand Canyon. Kind of won that game off a bit of a controversial buzzer beater. I'm not going to argue whether or not it was a travel, but it is what it is. And UConn, Florida had to play UConn, Norfolk. Obviously, UConn much tougher than Colorado State on paper, but this UConn team hasn't looked that good this year. But they put up a fight. They were definitely the better team in that game. And I think that was exactly what Maryland needed. They just saw a full script on how UConn almost beat Florida. I think if they just replicate the Hurley coaching decisions on their side, I think they can make some significantly good adjustments here, and they have a chance here to keep this game quite close. Again, they have not lost by more than 5 points this year. I have this model as a 4-point win for Florida. Again, Florida's a good team, but the thing that they suck at is free throws. And if this game does come down to a grindy free throw battle at the end, I kind of like Maryland to be able to hit their free throws more than I do Florida. Again, Florida, if they're hitting their shots, they're a team that historically has the ability to run away with games. But again, Florida, a team due for a lot of regression. They're 32-4, but shot quality suggests they should be 26-10. Maryland due for a little bit of negative regression. They're 27-8, suggests they should be 25-10. But again, Florida has the elite guards. Typically, what you kind of want in this time of year. It's typically more of a guard play game than a elite center game or a big men game, which kind of what Maryland does. But again, I'm gonna rock with Maryland here. I think this line at plus 6.5 is kind of nice. It's kind of like 2-3 possessions, at least 3 possessions with 3 balls. And I think I kind of want to take the first half to some degree, but the fact that Maryland has covered these games so late, I kind of like it for them. I think they're going to find success in forcing turnovers. They're the better free throw shooting team. I think they're going to have some success on the offensive glass. Florida, they're going to also find some success, but they're a team that shoots a lot of threes and near basket shots. But they're such a bad free throw shooting team that I think that kind of gives a bit of an edge here to Maryland in terms of where these free points are going to come from. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. Obviously, Florida is the more talented team, but I think Maryland has the possibility here. I think Colorado State was a bit of a weird spot for them, kind of a mental game where they had to, play against a team that was potentially going to be a Cinderella upset. I think that was kind of stressful for them, but now they're in the complete opposite side. Now they're in the underdog spot. I love that for them. Give me Maryland plus 6.5 here. Again, Florida could easily win this game by 25 points, and I wouldn't be surprised, but if Maryland can figure out a good game plan in the paint and get Derek Queen the ball, I think he drops 30 points, 25, 30 points, and I think that's enough here to keep them competitive. All right, heading on to game number 3, we have Arizona versus Duke. Now, this Duke team has been insane. I don't think anyone can deny that they've been by far the best team in this tournament on the year. Could maybe argue Duke or Auburn, or Florida or Auburn, but it's been Duke. Let's be real. Duke has been the best team in college basketball. That being said, how much can you rely on Proctor to keep hitting these threes at this rate? Like, there's eventually a game where he's gonna go cold. Maybe the pressure, all this, spotlight on him over the last few days since that impressive performance against Baylor. Maybe he's gonna get into his head a little bit. On paper, this should be a spot where Duke should easily run away with this game. But again, Duke has played in the ACC a much easier schedule than Arizona has. Arizona's, coming from the Big 12, played the top 10 schedule. I think they've been the better team in terms of momentum. They've improved down the stretch. And they're a much more consistent team. Again, Duke is ranked 337th in consistency. They consistently put up big numbers, but they also typically have some games where they're not shooting as good as they sometimes can. So I think this is a spot here where Arizona is going to be extremely motivated early on. I think they have a lot more to prove in this underdog spot. I think Duke's going to come out a bit slow. I think Proctor's threes aren't going to fall. I think Caleb Love has a big first half. And I think Duke eventually runs away with this game just because they're that good. And they typically play really, really good down the stretch. They don't really turn off their gas. But if you look at the power ratings for these two teams, Duke is, I guess, theoretically more of a second half team than a first half team. They're the second best first half team in college basketball and the first best in the second half. Arizona, top 10 first half and falls into the 14th, so a big difference for them. They definitely come out of games much hotter. And yeah, again, I think strength of schedule comes into this game a bit. I think that's why I have this line as, I think it's pretty close. I have this as basically a 9-point win for Duke. But again, I think this is just a spot here where Arizona plays at a much faster pace here. Duke has not been ever scared in this tournament. And Arizona obviously had a pretty close game against Oregon where they kind of pulled away down the stretch. I think they're the team that's going to have more to play for, especially in the first half. Duke eventually will lock back in, but I think Arizona can keep this game close in the first half before Duke eventually runs away with it. So I'm going to take Arizona first half plus 5.5 here. All right, and to wrap this up, we have Arkansas versus Texas Tech. Now, I'm not going to bet this game until tomorrow. Both teams kind of have question marks on key starters. McMillan may be playing for Texas Tech, and Arkansas Thyro is expected to play, but who really knows whether or not he's going to play a lot of minutes. So I don't really feel too confident on either side of this game. Sometimes when you throw in a player that hasn't played all tournament, out of nowhere, it kind of fucks with the mojo. They kind of change their game plan a little bit when a team comes out. Maybe that's going to fuck with their game plan, especially with Arkansas. I think Thyro is a bit more of a significant change to how well they're going to play. Getting a really tall guy against a Texas Tech team that isn't necessarily that big. McMillan, I think he's only like 6'2", 6'3". He's going to give them depth, at least in the shooting guard role. Give them a lot more opportunities to score points, especially when their stars are on the bench. But I don't know, man. I think this is a legacy game for JT Toppin. Obviously, Arkansas has the elite coach in Calipari, a legacy coach that has done really well with Kentucky back in the day. And this is obviously his first season, a Hall of Fame coach here. But I don't know, man. I think there's only so much you can do on the bench as a coach. You can make adjustments, but I think Texas Tech has the more talent. And I think they do a few things better. Arkansas does a few things really well, and they struggle doing a few things. Again, Arkansas, not that good of a free throw shooting team. They're really bad at shooting the three ball, kind of like a Michigan State type style. On Texas Tech, they just do everything decently well. They're decent at forcing turnovers, decent on the boards on both sides. They shoot all their shots in the top 40%. They're a decent free throw shooting team. They're efficient on both ends of the ball. I think they're just a more well-rounded team here. And if their threes can fall here, Arkansas historically has kind of struggled against teams that can shoot the three. Again, their last two games, they haven't really played good offenses. I guess you could argue that both Kansas and St. John's are teams that are led by their defensive skill. And this is going to be a Texas Tech team that's still really good defensively, but now it's a top 10 offense you're playing. And I think it's a bit tougher to make adjustments when Texas Tech just has so many weapons. Arkansas really struggled on the offensive boards last game against St. John's. This is a Texas Tech team that isn't necessarily known to be an offensive board team, but they're still a pretty decent top 75 offensive board team. And if Arkansas can't really clean that up, Texas Tech's going to have a lot of opportunities here, especially considering I think they are the better free throw shooting team down the stretch. I think they can pull away if this is a tight game. So yeah, I haven't officially bet this yet. I'm going to wait till the morning, see if the line drops to -5, because I really hate the 5.5 line. I get hooked on that more than, I kind of look back on more than any other line. I think -1.5 is the other line I get hooked on the most, but yeah, I really want to get a -5 here. So I'm going to wait to see if the Thyro news kind of gets more popular. I think this line might fall to -5, -4.5 maybe. It could also move the other way with McMillan news. So I'm going to wait on this one. But even if it's 5.5 tomorrow, I'm going to bet it in the morning if it hasn't switched. But yeah. All right, and that brings us to our summary. So these are the 4 bets that I'm rocking with tomorrow in college basketball. We got BYU plus 5.5, Maryland plus 6.5, Arizona first half plus 5.5, and Texas Tech minus 5.5. All these lines look almost identical, which is kind of insane if you really think about it. But yeah, I think tomorrow could be a day where the dogs finally start barking a little bit. I want to take more favorites because sometimes when you take dogs, you start to feel like a bit of a fake sharp. You feel like you need to go against the public. But again, model wise, the only team that I have covering their spreads is Texas Tech. All the other 3 dogs I actually have covering. So um, I really like these spots. I really do. I might end up taking 1/2 for the Maryland game. I've already bet the plus 6.5, but I'm going to kind of see how the game looks to start. See if Maryland looks like they're playing at the pace that I want them to. If not, then I probably won't touch it. But yeah, that's everything. I'm going to work on the NBA video and the MLB video right after this one goes up, so those should be up soon. I went 3-0 in NBA today, so kind of be cooking in NBA. That brings us to 7-2 on the NBA since I started YouTube, so kind of similar to college basketball where we started on a bit of a heater. Hopefully that doesn't regress like college basketball did, but I'm optimistic. Anyway, that's everything for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow.